So we have first to understand that's scientific proof. So not medical science. That's actually what was it? The name. To understand what's the beginning or what's actually the source of living or of existence. And nowadays, everybody knows it, at least in certain science of quantum physics. In quantum physics, everybody knows it. That's consciousness. Consciousness gives living, not food. So that's very important as basic. So what makes you living and makes living the first part of you, that's the first stem cell, I guess it calls, the first cell. And then by self division, it creates your body. But who is creating it? Actually, the consciousness. That's actually your true self. That's your, you can call it soul or true self or whatever. That's your consciousness. Okay. Finishing the part, we were starting intermediate fasting. So how I can adapt my body to less and less in a comfort way. When you do it very harsh, then you suffer a lot and then you struggle. So intermediate fasting is the best way. You start 16:8 and you go down to 23:1. That means in the end, eating only during 1 hour of time period.
And then you recommend like 47 hours fasting and one hour, like you slowly extend the fasting time?
The day still has 24. That means 23 hours fasting, no drinking, no eating, and during 1 hour you drink and eat. And also step by step changing the food, less toxic. In the end, you have to go to be fruitarian, only fruits. You eat maybe one type, and also to mono diet. That means only one type of fruit that we do actually right now. One fruit during 1 hour, 3 days a week. But in this case, you're doing 7, but in the end, it would be good that you do 5 days. And 2 days are dry. One is dry fasting and one is liquid fasting. That's step by step going in this direction.
The last part, so they do 5 day. Can you repeat? Sorry, I don't think.
Oh, okay. Now you have your 7 days. And first is intermediate fasting, less, till you go to 23:1. And also to switch into fruitarian, step by step. Less. In the end, you only want fruits. And then after that would be the next step. You eat only 5 days, 5 days fruits, mono diet, only one type of food, and 2 days fasting. One with liquid, mean tea or water, and one dry fasting.
And then when you say in an hour, people can as much as they want one type of fruit?
Of course. Of course, you will automatically you will eat less. That's the point. And by the intermediate fasting, it helps also discover your emotions. What's behind the food? What drives me to the addiction? Because that's actually the problem. The problem is not the food. The problem is not the smoke or any other drug. That's not the problem. That's only stimulants. Stimulants, I guess the word. They stimulate you. But you have to ask yourself why I need a stimulation. Because I'm living a life that's actually not mine. I don't want to live this. And that's cause anxiety, and core anxiety drives you to addiction to a drug, whatever. So the more inside, the more inside, the more anxious is your life, the more you eat normally, that you can see. Actually, you can tell your experience that we're always thinking of food. When you're thinking of food, you actually search for food in your mind, but actually what you're looking for. That's the point. You're looking actually for love, because the first food you received was actually the breastfeeding from your mom. It's actually what you're actually looking for, is actually for a big hug, for love. That's very related. When you're in anxiety, what you want is a big hug. And then the hug from your mom is not available, but the fridge is available, so you take food. As a memory. It's a memory, and that's actually programmed. You are programmed. Food is love. Okay, so you know how to adapt, but the main part is to understand why you are addicted. Otherwise, there's only switching one drug to another drug. That you can actually observe, for example, an alcoholic leaves the alcohol, but he starts to smoke. So he switches only from one or starts to eat more. So he is always switching from one drug to another drug, but it's not dissolving the cause because I'm using the drug. That's a very important part to understand. Otherwise, there is no solution. So you understood everything. Also, there was a question about how you were formed to be an addict. Behind this is, of course, two addicts form another addict, because you learn eating. And also, the most question I always get, why baby eats or starving. They say always they're starving for breastfeeding. But the most time, the mother has to lift up the baby and put it to the breast. So, and also they force them to drink. So there are babies, they want drinking, but the others, they don't want. So we should also observe this part. You learn to drink milk, and that's the part where you learn to be an addict. There's not something in you. In your consciousness is not eating. And as a baby, you're still in your true consciousness. But then you were formed by two addicts of habit. They teach you the habit. Later on, the habit goes into addiction.
That Markus, you always kind of talk about observation, but for you to say there's a baby who don't want to drink milk, like have you observed any babies who just grow up without eating or drinking?
No, but I have talked to a lot of pediatricians. They lately they get a lot of parents. They claim, or they are what do you say? They say their babies or their children don't want to eat. So nowadays they create pills to create starvation, or create the sensation of hunger. The children don't eat, because there are children, a lot of children, they don't want to eat. They don't want to do putting something in their mouth again. But that's what I have had a conversation with pediatricians. They were telling me lately, it's been the last years, it is growing, this tendency.
Maybe they're watching Marcus's video.
I just want to ask Markus clarification. You said something about cradles to create starvation. Yeah. Could you elaborate?
It what creates the sensation of I need something. I need something to eat. So we're talking right now children. So children, they're thinking of no, I don't need nothing. The problem is they feel no need physically, but in their mind maybe already the program I need food, and so there is the conflict. Therefore, mainly in Africa, so people who or children who live on starvation or are starving, the problem is they got the program already from the parent, from the mother, mainly because a baby do not thinks by its own. Thinks actually what the mother is thinking. So the mother is thinking, my baby needs food, and therefore it's programming its baby. So that's the problem. So you're programming the baby, he needs food, but on the other hand, you don't want to eat as a children, but that can lead to a conflict. That's maybe a problem. But therefore, it should be always this way. Parents and children should be hand in hand. And an addict will always form an addict, and you can see it worldwide. Also in the case of traumatized. So everybody is traumatized because they were taught by their parents their trauma. So it's always a continuum. So and your trauma is actually the cause of your anxiety, because you get some conflict with yourself, and it starts everything by its own. Therefore, actually, people die by starvation because of their believing. Because I believe I need food. When I do not have food, I have to die. And then you follow actually the program that we're giving to you, but it's not the truth. So you fulfill the program, but the program is a lie. But therefore, actually, people die. They don't have to die. And actually, I don't want the people now believe they have to eat, and then they start to believe they do not have to eat. They should free themselves from the lie. They should believe nothing, because actually who is believing is actually the ego. It's who is thinking is the ego. So you should liberate of your thoughts and go into a true consciousness. In a true consciousness, then you need no information of the past or what you think. Actually, thinking is part of your ego.
Let me ask a follow-up then. So then it's kind of like this, right? Then since you have to believe that you're going to die without in this so-called starvation, that means the ego is creating death. Is that correct?
Because consciousness is only creating life. So actually, this is the basic. Of course, we can go to different angles or different directions, but when you so this basic, and normally understand this one part, but you have to comprehend it, and comprehension means that you have to do your own experience. Because otherwise it's only now you believe me, or you believe the medicine, or you believe somebody else. Then it's only switching believings. You have to have your own experience. And therefore, I do in 8 days, because in these 8 days you experience certain sensations, emotions, and then you get to the comprehension that actually I'm an addict. My body is not asking for food. That's my emotions asking to calm down the anxiety.
Yeah, so Markus, I think like before we go to like Q&A or more informal format, you can if you have like anything you want to continue, I'll just let you speak and then I will translate.
No, it's actually as whole, I would say that's enough, and we can do right now actually Q&A, no problem.
And so before we go into the Q&A, like, is it like you're in a house? Maybe you can find a better place with connection, or because you cut off a lot.
That's actually what I got, because I'm actually right in very in a reservoir, and there is only this house. There's I get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kilometers far is the next house. So there is no other connection. So it's what I have. So be patient. Be patient. So maybe I'm talking a little bit slower, that maybe we do not get any interruptions, or when there come interruptions, that you still get the message.
Okay, then I will ask you again if I miss something. So patience, paciencia.